I'm 71 years old, and people hear that number and picture someone fragile, slow, confused, easy to push around. What they don't see is the lifetime behind it, the scraped knuckles, the swallowed pride, the years of stretching a dollar until it screamed. I raised my kids through layoffs, sickness, and a husband who worked himself into an early grave. I didn't survive all that to end up being treated like an ATM with wrinkles. But that's exactly what my daughter Marissa and her husband Caleb had slowly turned me into. It didn't happen overnight. It never does. It starts small, a loan, a favor, a temporary help situation that somehow never ends. Before you know it, you're apologizing for asking where your own money went. That Tuesday night, I'd gone to bed early. My back was aching something fierce, and the weather had my knees acting like rusty hinges. I remember thinking how quiet the apartment felt. Peaceful. Like maybe, just maybe, I'd earned a calm night for once. Then my phone lit up at 2:04 a.m. Not a text, not a gentle ring, a full-on aggressive buzz rattling the nightstand. I already knew who it was before I even reached for it. Caleb. My son-in-law never called me unless something was wrong, or unless he needed money. And usually, those were the same thing. I answered without saying hello. "What now?" I asked, my voice thick with sleep. "Mrs. Holloway," he said, and that alone made my stomach tighten. He only used my last name when he was trying to sound serious. Or intimidating. "We've got a situation." I sat up slowly, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. The apartment was dark, except for the streetlight bleeding through the blinds. "You're calling me in the middle of the night?" I said. "So I'm guessing this situation costs money." A sharp exhale on the other end. "Your card got declined." There it was. "Which card?" I asked. "The black one," he said. "The one you let Marissa use." I closed my eyes. That card. The one I'd sworn I'd cancel months ago, but never did, because every time I tried, my daughter's voice crept into my head. "Mom, what if there's an emergency? What if we really need it?" "What were you charging?" I asked. "We're checking out of the hotel," he said. "Luxury place. Downtown. And they won't let us leave until the balance is cleared." I let that sit for a moment. "How much?" Another pause. Longer this time. 9,000. I laughed. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just one sharp breath of disbelief. $9,000, I repeated. At 2 a.m. "Look," Caleb snapped, dropping the polite act. "This isn't the time for questions. We need you to wire it now, or they're talking about calling the police." There it was again. Fear. Pressure. The same tactic they always used. Make it urgent so I wouldn't think. Make it scary so I'd comply. "Where's my daughter?" I asked. "She's here," he said quickly. "She's stressed. This is embarrassing." "Put her on," I said. "She doesn't need this right now." "Put her on." I heard muffled voices. Then the phone shifted. And there she was. "Mom," Marissa said, already crying. She always cried when money was involved. "I didn't know it would bounce, I swear. They're acting like criminals." I stared at the wall across from my bed. There was a crack running down the paint that I'd been meaning to fix for years. Funny how you notice small things when big decisions are forming. "Marissa," I said, calm as could be, "how long have you been at this hotel?" Silence. Marissa. A week. A week, I repeated. And you never fought to check the balance. Caleb's voice cut back in. This isn't helping. We just need the money. Something shifted inside me then. Not anger, not sadness. Clarity. I thought of the bank statements I'd finally started printing, the texts I'd saved, the emails I'd forwarded to myself, the black binder sitting in my closet, thick and heavy with truth. No, I said. What do you mean, no? Caleb snapped. I mean, I said slowly, I'm not sending anything. Marissa gasped. Mom, you can't do this to us. I'm not doing anything to you, I replied. You did this to yourselves. Caleb's tone went cold. If we can't pay, they won't let us leave. I smiled. Just a little. Then, I said, I suggest you call your wife's bank, or your own, or a lawyer. Mom, I'm hanging up now, I said. Figure it out. And before they could say another word, I ended the call. I laid back down, heart pounding but steady. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. I fell asleep, knowing something had finally broken loose. I just didn't know yet how far they'd go the next morning to get what they thought I owed them. I didn't wake up to an alarm that morning. I woke up to silence. The kind of silence that only comes after something big has already happened. Like the world took a deep breath and decided to wait and see what I'd do next. Sunlight leaked through the blinds, cutting thin golden lines across my bedroom wall. My bones ached the way they always do in the morning, but my chest felt lighter. Then I remembered the call. 2 in the damn morning. Marissa crying. Caleb barking orders like I was one of his employees. $9,000. A luxury hotel. I sat up slowly and rested my feet on the floor. For a moment, I just sat there letting the memory pass through me instead of swallowing me whole like it used to. I reached for my phone. 5 missed calls. 3 from Marissa. 2 from Caleb. No voicemail from him. That wasn't surprising. Caleb never left messages. He preferred pressure, not proof. There was one new voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. I pressed play. Mrs. Holloway, this is Officer Daniel Grant with the City Police Department. Please return my call regarding an incident involving your credit card. I stared at the screen after it ended. An incident. Not a misunderstanding, not a family issue. An incident. I didn't panic. That surprised me more than the call itself. A year ago, I would have been shaking so bad I'd spill my coffee. I would have already been blaming myself, replaying every decision that led to this moment, wondering how I failed so badly as a mother. But not today. Today, I swung my legs out of bed and stood up. I made coffee first. Real coffee. Not that weak stuff Marissa used to buy when she still pretended to care about my cholesterol. I drank it black, standing at the counter, staring at the quiet kitchen that had seen so many tears over the years. Then I walked to the hall closet. The black binder sat right where I'd put it, tucked behind the winter coats like a secret waiting for the right season. It was heavy when I pulled it out, not just from the paper inside, but from everything it represented. Months of screenshots, bank statements, text messages I'd been too scared to read more than once, notes I'd written to myself, late at night, so I wouldn't forget how they made me feel. I sat at the table and opened it. There it all was. Proof. I called the number back. Officer Grant answered calmly, professionally. He confirmed my name and explained that Marissa and Caleb had been stopped that morning while trying to check out of a high-end hotel downtown. They attempted to leave without paying their balance, he said. They claimed the charges were authorized by you. I let out a slow breath. No, I said firmly. They weren't. There was a pause. They said you usually handle these things, he replied carefully. I almost laughed at that. Almost. I've helped my daughter financially before, I said, but I never approved this, and I cut off access to my card weeks ago. That got his attention. You did? Yes, and I have records. I spent the next hour emailing him everything. Every transfer, every overdraft notice, every message where Caleb demanded money instead of asking. Every promise Marissa made to pay me back soon. There was even a message from Caleb that still made my hands shake when I read it. If you don't help us, don't expect to be around much longer. At the time, I told myself he meant emotionally. Now I wasn't so sure. By the time I finished sending everything, my phone started buzzing again. Marissa. I let it ring. Again and again. Then Caleb called. Then Marissa left a voicemail. Her voice was frantic, cracking between sobs and fury. Mom, what did you do? The police are here. This is humiliating. Caleb could lose his job over this. You're destroying our family. I deleted it without listening to the rest. Around noon, Officer Grant called me back. Mrs. Holloway, he said, based on what you've provided, this may qualify as financial exploitation. The words hit me harder than I expected. Victim. I'd never thought of myself that way. I'd always said I was just helping, just being a good mother, just doing what needed to be done. But suddenly, everything looked different. I'd like to come by and speak with you in person, he added. I looked down at the open binder, pages spread across the table like they were finally breathing. Yes, I said. I think that's a good idea. When the knock came later that afternoon, my heart didn't race. Officer Grant was polite, younger than I expected, with kind eyes that didn't judge. He sat at my table and went through the binder slowly, carefully. He didn't interrupt. Didn't rush. Didn't minimize. When he reached the text where Caleb threatened me, his jaw tightened. Mrs. Holloway, he said, this is serious. I nodded. I know. For the first time in years, someone was listening and believing me. As he stood to leave, he said something I'll never forget. You did the right thing by stopping. After he left, I stood alone in my kitchen, sunlight still cutting across the floor. My phone buzzed again, but this time I didn't look. I wasn't scared anymore, because I knew something Marissa and Caleb didn't. This wasn't the end. This was the moment everything finally started to come apart for them. And for me, this was the moment I took my life back. By the time evening rolled around, my phone had gone quiet. That silence didn't mean peace. It meant something was loading. I knew Marissa well enough to recognize that pattern. First came panic, then came anger, and after that, confrontation. She never backed down when she felt cornered. She pushed harder, louder, like noise alone could bend reality back her way. I made myself a light dinner I barely touched. Toast and soup. The kind my late husband used to joke was hospital food. I sat at the kitchen table, with the black binder closed in front of me, like a sleeping animal. The house felt smaller than usual, the walls listening. Right at 7:18 p.m., there was a knock. Not polite, not patient. The kind of knock that said, "Open this door or else." I didn't jump. I didn't rush. I stood up slow, adjusted my cardigan, and walked over like I had all the time in the world. Because for once, I did. When I opened the door, Marissa was standing there with her arms crossed, eyes red, jaw tight. Caleb stood just behind her, lips pressed thin, his whole body screaming control issues. "Are you happy now?" Marissa snapped before I could even say hello. I stepped aside. "You might as well come in." They walked past me like they owned the place, like they always had. Caleb dropped onto the couch, spreading his arms out like a king reclaiming his throne. Marissa stayed standing. "You called the cops on us," she said, her voice shaking. "Your own daughter!" "No," I said calmly. I answered the truth when they asked. Caleb scoffed. "You embarrassed us! Do you have any idea how this looks?" I turned and looked straight at him. "I imagine it looks a lot like consequences." Marissa threw her hands up. "This is unbelievable! After everything we've done for you." I laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. Not loud, not cruel, just tired. "Done for me?" I said. "You mean spending my money, maxing my cards, calling me at 2 a.m, like I'm an ATM with a pulse?" Her face twisted. "We needed help." "You needed control," I corrected. Caleb stood up. "Let's not do this right now." "No," I said, my voice steady. "Let's absolutely do this right now." I walked to the table and picked up the black binder. Marissa's eyes flicked to it. "Just for a second. Enough. I didn't raise you to speak to me the way you have," I continued. "And I didn't work my whole life just to fund yours." Marissa's voice cracked. "You're acting like we're criminals." I opened the binder and flipped to the first section. "I'm acting like someone who finally paid attention." I slid the binder across the table toward them. Caleb didn't touch it. Marissa did. She opened it slowly, like she already knew what was inside, but hoped she was wrong. Her breath caught. Page after page, transfers highlighted, dates circled, texts printed and time-stamped. She turned a page and froze. "That's private," she whispered. "That's mine," I said. "My money, my records, my life." Caleb leaned over her shoulder, and I watched his confidence drain out through his posture. His face tightened when he saw his own words printed in black ink. "This is twisted," he muttered. "You've been spying on us." "I've been surviving you," I replied. Marissa slammed the binder shut. "You planned this." "Yes," I said. "I did." Her eyes filled with tears, but they weren't soft tears. They were sharp, angry. "So what? You're cutting us off? That's it?" I already did. Caleb laughed bitterly. "You think you can just erase years of help and walk away clean?" "I didn't erase them," I said. "I documented them." The room went quiet. Then Marissa said something that finally cracked the air open. "You're going to end up alone." I felt that one, right in the ribs. But I didn't fold. "I've been alone for years," I said. "I was just paying for company." That's when Caleb lost it. "You're making a huge mistake," he snapped. "You need us." I shook my head. No, I needed boundaries. Marissa wiped her face hard. "So what happens now?" I took a breath. "Now," I said, "you figure your life out without my pension holding it up." Caleb stepped toward me. "Too close. You think this ends here?" I met his stare. I think this ends however you choose to behave. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Marissa grabbed her coat. Come on, she said to Caleb. There's nothing left to say. At the door, she turned back one last time. You're not the mother I thought you were. I nodded. I finally agree with you. They left without another word. The door clicked shut. I locked it. Then I leaned my back against it and slid down to the floor, my legs trembling now that the storm had passed. My chest hurt, but it wasn't regret. It was release. But as I sat there in the quiet, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Mrs. Holloway, a woman said calmly. This is Adult Protective Services. We need to talk. My stomach dropped, because I knew right then this wasn't over. When the woman from Adult Protective Services hung up, my apartment didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt inspected already. I stayed on the floor longer than I should have, my back against the door, listening to the hum of the fridge, the tick of the clock, the sound of my own breathing finally slowing down. My hands were still shaking, but my mind was sharp, too sharp, like it had crossed some invisible line and wasn't going back. APS. I never imagined those letters would be connected to my name. I got up, locked the door again, even though it already was, and went straight back to the kitchen table. The black binder was still there, exactly where I'd left it, like it knew it wasn't done yet. I flipped it open and started adding things. Dates, times, what was said, who said it. I wrote everything down the way I should have years ago, not as excuses, not as feelings, just facts, cold, solid facts, the kind nobody can talk their way out of. That night, I didn't sleep much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marissa's face when she realized she couldn't scare me anymore. And underneath that memory was something darker. The look Caleb gave me before they walked out. Not anger, calculation. The next morning, the knock came early. Too early. I looked through the peephole first this time. 2 women, 1 man, clipboards, calm faces. I opened the door. Mrs. Holloway? One of the women asked gently. I'm Denise from Adult Protective Services. This is Mark and Elena. We just want to talk. I stepped aside. They didn't barge in. They didn't look around like cops. They sat where I offered, hands folded, respectful. Denise spoke slowly, like she didn't want to spook me. We received a report regarding potential financial exploitation, she said. I nodded. From my daughter, I'm guessing? Denise didn't confirm or deny it. We just want to understand what's been happening. So I told them. Not emotionally, not apologetically. I told them clean. About the late-night calls, the guilt, the pressure, the hotel incident, the threats I brushed off because I didn't want to believe my own family could cross that line. Then I slid the black binder across the table. Their tone changed when they opened it. Mark adjusted his glasses. Elena stopped writing and just stared at one page for a long moment. Denise sighed softly. The kind of sigh that comes from seeing this story too many times. This is extensive, Denise said. Yes, I replied. It is. They asked if I felt afraid. I thought about it. I feel clear, I said, for the first time in years. That answer surprised them. They explained my options. protective orders, financial safeguards, documentation. And then Denise said something that hit harder than anything else that day. You're not obligated to maintain contact with anyone who harms you, even family. I didn't cry. I just nodded. After they left, my phone started up again. Marissa didn't call this time. She texted, "You're really doing this? You're letting strangers tear our family apart?" I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back one sentence. I didn't tear it apart. I stopped holding it together alone. No response. That afternoon, I went to the bank. Not to withdraw money, to protect it. I sat with a young advisor who spoke fast and smiled too much until he saw my paperwork. Then he slowed down, took me seriously. We locked things down, alerts, limits, signatures. No more family access, no more loopholes. Walking out of that bank, I felt taller. That evening, my phone rang again. This time, it was my granddaughter Lily. "Grandma?" she asked softly. "Mom's crying. She says you hate her." That one hurt. "I don't hate your mom," I said carefully. "I love her enough to stop lying to her." There was a pause. "Are you okay?" Lily asked. "Yes," I said. "I finally am." After we hung up, I sat alone on the couch as the sun went down. The apartment glowed orange, then blue. Quiet settled in again, but not the heavy kind, the honest kind. Around 10 p.m., my doorbell rang. I froze. I hadn't invited anyone. APS was done. The police hadn't said they were coming back. I checked the peephole. Caleb, alone. My stomach tightened, but my spine didn't bend. I didn't open the door. "What do you want?" I asked through it. His voice was calm, too calm. "We need to talk," he said. "Just you and me." "No," I replied. "You're making things worse," he said. "You think Marissa's taking this well?" "I'm not responsible for how she reacts to reality," I said. He leaned closer to the door. "You really want to do this the hard way?" That sentence settled into my bones like ice. "I've already done the hardest part," I said. "You should leave." He didn't answer right away. Then he laughed quietly. "This isn't over," he said. "I know," I replied. He walked away. I waited until I heard the elevator doors close before I locked the deadbolt again. I stood there in the dark, heart pounding now because something told me this was shifting into a different phase. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about control, and I had just taken it from the wrong man. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was scared of being alone. I'd been alone for years. I didn't sleep because my body finally understood something my heart had been ignoring. Love doesn't come with threats. And anyone who needs to scare you to stay in control was never loving you in the first place. By morning, my nerves were shot, but my mind was clear. I showered, got dressed, and stood in front of the mirror longer than usual. I saw wrinkles. I saw tired eyes. But I also saw a woman who wasn't flinching anymore. That mattered. My phone buzzed while I was making breakfast. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then it buzzed again. Voicemail. ... I listened. "Mrs. Holloway, this is a courtesy call regarding a civil complaint filed against you. Please contact our office immediately." My hands went cold. A complaint. Not criminal. Civil. I knew exactly where that came from. Marissa. I sat down slowly and pressed my palms flat against the table until the shaking stopped. Years ago, this would have crushed me. I would have called her crying, begging to fix it. But now I felt something different. Anger. Clean and sharp. I called the number back and confirmed what I already suspected. Marissa and Caleb were claiming emotional distress, alienation, financial harm. The woman on the phone spoke politely, but her words were rehearsed. She'd done this before. Families turning into battlefields. After I hung up, I stared at the wall and let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. They were really doing this. Dragging me into court because I stopped paying. That afternoon, Lily showed up at my door. She didn't knock hard. She never does. She knocks like she's afraid of bothering the air itself. "Grandma?" she said when I opened it. Her eyes were red. My heart cracked right down the middle. I pulled her into a hug without saying a word. She smelled like the same shampoo she's used since she was a kid. Coconut. Summer. Innocence. We sat on the couch, her head on my shoulder. "Mom says you hate her," she whispered. I swallowed. "No, sweetheart," I said softly. "I hate what's been happening. That's not the same thing." She nodded, but I could tell she didn't fully understand. How could she? She was raised inside the mess. It looked normal from the inside. "Caleb's really mad," she added quietly. I stiffened. "What did he say?" She hesitated. "He said, if you don't stop, things are going to get ugly." That word again. Ugly. I kissed the top of her head. "Listen to me," I said. "No matter what happens between the adults, you are loved. None of this is your fault. Ever." She hugged me tighter. When Lily left, my apartment felt emptier than usual. Not lonely, hollow, like something precious had been dragged through mud. That night, I opened the black binder again. But this time, I added a new section. Legal. I made copies, backups, digital files. I sent everything to a lawyer recommended by APS, a woman named Diane, with a voice like gravel and zero patience for nonsense. She read everything. Then she said, "They're bluffing." That helped, but it didn't erase the knot in my chest. 2 days later, Marissa showed up again. Alone. She looked different, smaller. Like the anger was still there, but it was leaking out. "I don't recognize you anymore," she said, after I let her in. "I finally recognize myself," I replied. She sat down slowly. "You're choosing strangers over family." "No," I said. "I'm choosing reality over denial." Her voice broke. "You're destroying us." I leaned forward. "You destroyed yourself the moment you thought I owed you my life." She stared at me like I'd slapped her. "I raised you," I continued. "I loved you. I helped you. But I will not bleed myself dry so you don't have to grow up." Tears slid down her face, real ones this time. "I don't know how to do this without you," she whispered. That almost broke me. Almost. "You'll learn," I said, just like I had to. She left without another word. That night my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Marissa. It was the police. "Mrs. Holloway?" the officer said carefully. "We received a report about a disturbance involving your son-in-law." My heart dropped straight through the floor. "What kind of disturbance?" I asked. There was a pause. Threatening behavior. And your name came up. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table. because suddenly I understood something terrifying. Setting boundaries didn't make me safer. It made me a target. And as the officer continued speaking, I realized this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about revenge. And Caleb wasn't done. I sat at my kitchen table, long after the police officer hung up. Didn't move. Didn't cry. Didn't even blink for a while. Because when fear finally shows its face, it don't always scream. Sometimes it just sits there quiet, daring you to flinch. Threatening behavior. Caleb, my name came up. That meant he'd crossed a line. And deep down, I'd known it was coming. Men like him don't lose control politely. They escalate. Slow at first, then all at once. I stood up and locked my door. Then I locked it again, just to be sure. I walked through my apartment, checking windows, pulling curtains, turning on lights like it was already nighttime, even though the sun was still out. My hands were steady, but my chest felt tight, like my heart had wrapped itself in barbed wire. I called Diane, my lawyer. She answered on the second ring. Talk to me. I told her everything. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she sighed. Okay, first thing, you're not overreacting. Second, you are not alone in this. That helped more than she probably knew. What do? I asked. You document. You don't confront. And if he shows up, you call 911. No warnings. No explanations. After I hung up, I made tea I didn't drink and toast I didn't eat. My body went through the motions, while my brain stayed on high alert. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me sit up. Every car door outside felt like footsteps. I kept my phone on the nightstand, screen facing up, volume all the way up. Around 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text, unknown number. You think you won. You didn't. My blood ran cold. I didn't respond. I screenshotted it, saved it, emailed it to Diane, then blocked the number. My heart was pounding, but my mind was strangely calm. This was no longer emotional abuse. This was intimidation. And that changes things. The next morning, I went somewhere I hadn't been in years. The bank. I sat across from a young man in a blue tie and asked to freeze any access tied to my old accounts. He typed fast, nodded serious, didn't judge. When he handed me the paperwork, I felt lighter than I had in decades. Control. That afternoon, Lily called. Grandma, she whispered, are you okay? I hated that she had to ask that at all. I'm okay, sweetheart, I said gently. Are you? She hesitated. Caleb's been different. My stomach dropped. Different how? He's angry all the time. He yells at Mom. He slams doors. Last night, he threw his phone at the wall. I closed my eyes. Listen to me carefully, I said. If you ever feel unsafe, you call me, or you call the police. You hear me? Yes, she said softly. After we hung up, I cried. Not loud, not dramatic. Just quiet tears sliding down my face while I stared at the wall. Because protecting yourself is hard. But protecting someone you love? That's terrifying. 2 days passed without incident. Then, 3. I started to breathe again. On the 4th day, someone knocked on my door. I froze. The knock was firm. Not aggressive, but not friendly either. I walked to the door slowly and looked through the peephole. Caleb, alone. My heart slammed so hard I thought it might crack a rib. I didn't open the door. "Evelyn," he called. "I just want to talk." I stayed silent. "Come on," he said, his voice smooth like oil. "You're making this bigger than it needs to be." I felt rage rise up hot and sharp. "You need to leave," I said through the door. "Now." He laughed. Actually laughed. "You really think you can just cut us off and walk away?" "Yes," I said. "I do." His tone changed. "You don't know what you've done." I stepped back, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911. The moment he heard it ringing, his voice dropped. "You wouldn't dare." "I already am," I said. Silence. Then footsteps. By the time the police arrived, he was gone. But they took my statement, took screenshots, took notes. One officer looked me dead in the eye and said, "You did the right thing." That night, I sat on my couch shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I'd faced him. I hadn't folded, and the world didn't end. The next morning, Marissa called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. "What did you do?" she demanded. "I protected myself," I said. "You called the cops on my husband." "He threatened me," I replied. "And if you're honest with yourself, you know that wasn't the first time." She went quiet. Then, very softly, she said, "I'm scared." That stopped me. "Of him?" I asked. Another pause. "Yes." I closed my eyes. "Then you need help," I said. "Real help." "I don't know how to leave," she whispered. And for the first time in years, I heard my daughter, not the manipulator, not the user, but the scared little girl she used to be. "Then listen to me," I said, "because I'm done being afraid. And I won't watch you drown if you're finally ready to swim." She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was shaking. "I think I need to get Lily out." My heart skipped, because that was the moment everything shifted. But before I could say another word, there was a knock at my door again. This time, louder, urgent. And when I looked through the peephole, it wasn't Caleb. It was the police. And the look on the officer's face told me whatever was coming next was about to change everything. When I opened the door and saw 2 police officers standing there, my heart didn't race this time. It dropped. Like my body already knew the bad news was overdue. "Miss Evelyn Harper?" the taller one asked. "Yes," I said. My voice sounded calm, but my hands were numb. "May we come in?" I stepped aside. They didn't sit. Cops never sit when they've got something heavy to say. One stayed near the door. The other stood by my window like he needed air too. "There was an incident involving your daughter's husband," the shorter officer said carefully. "Early this evening." My stomach twisted. "Is Lily okay?" He nodded. "She's safe. Your daughter is safe." I exhaled so hard my knees almost gave out. "And Caleb?" I asked. The officer glanced at his partner. "He was arrested." The room went silent. I didn't feel relief right away. I didn't feel victory. I felt something stranger, like the floor finally stopped shaking after years of living through earthquakes. "What happened?" I asked. "There was a domestic disturbance call," he said. A neighbor reported yelling, crashing sounds. When officers arrived, Your daughter was trying to leave with her child. Mr. Reynolds attempted to stop her. My jaw clenched. They found your text messages and the previous report you filed, the taller officer added. That helped. I closed my eyes. All those years I stayed quiet. All that time I swallowed fear so no one would get mad at me. And the moment I spoke up, things started moving. Marissa called an hour later. She was crying so hard at first, I couldn't understand her. I left, she finally said. I grabbed Lily and ran when he went to the garage. I didn't even take shoes. You did good, I said, my voice breaking. You did real good. They arrested him, Mom, she whispered. He kept yelling that this was your fault. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. Men like that never blame themselves, I said. There was a long pause. Then she said something I'd waited decades to hear. I should have listened to you sooner. That hurt worse than any insult she'd ever thrown at me. I didn't know how to leave, she continued. But when you stood up to him, when you didn't cave, something clicked. I realized I didn't want Lily growing up thinking this was normal. My throat closed. You staying with me tonight? I asked. Yes, she said, if that's okay. Baby, I replied. This is your home too. They arrived with one duffel bag between them. Lily ran into my arms so hard she knocked the breath out of me. She held on like I might disappear if she let go. I was scared, she whispered. I know, I said, kissing her hair. But you're safe now. Marissa stood there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. No makeup, hair messy, eyes hollow. I made soup. We sat at the table like strangers, learning how to be family again. That night, Lily slept in my bed. Marissa took the couch. At 3 a.m., I heard footsteps. She was standing in my doorway, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she said, for everything. I didn't say it was okay. I said, we'll talk. Because forgiveness isn't instant, it's earned. The next few days were chaos. Protective orders, lawyers, statements, social workers asking Lily gentle questions that broke my heart. Caleb's family called. Some blamed me, some begged me to talk sense into Marissa. I blocked every last one of them. One message slipped through before I did. You destroyed a family. Hope you're happy. I deleted it without replying. For the first time in my life, guilt didn't stick. Because protecting your peace will always offend people who benefited from your silence. A week later, Marissa sat across from me at the kitchen table. I don't have much money, she said quietly. I don't know where we'll end up. You'll figure it out, I said, like I finally did. She nodded. I enrolled Lily in a new school, she added, closer to here. My heart swelled. Good. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out something small. A credit card. She slid it across the table, toward me. I canceled the old one, she said. The one linked to your account. I should have done that years ago. I stared at it. That was the moment I knew. Not everything was fixed, but something had truly changed. Life settled into a new rhythm. Morning walks, therapy appointments, laughter that felt cautious but real. Lily drawing pictures at my kitchen table. One afternoon, while folding laundry, I realized something shocking. I wasn't anxious. No pit in my stomach. No dread waiting for the next demand. Just quiet. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. Miss Harper, a man said. This is the district attorney's office. My heart jumped. Yes? We need to speak with you about Mr. Reynolds' upcoming hearing. I sat down slowly. What about it? There's new information, he said, and your testimony may be critical. My chest tightened. Testimony? I repeated. Yes, he replied. Your financial records, the threats, the pattern of behavior, it paints a much bigger picture than we initially realized. I swallowed hard. What happens if I testify? There was a pause. He could be facing serious charges, he said. But it will also put you directly in the spotlight. I looked at Lily in the living room, laughing over something silly on TV. At Marissa, finally breathing again. At myself, a woman who spent too long shrinking. I'll do it, I said. After I hung up, Marissa stayed at me. You don't have to, she said quickly. I know, I replied, but I want to. Because some stories don't end quietly. Some end when the truth finally gets loud. And as I looked at my family, the real one, rebuilt from ashes, I realized the final chapter hadn't even begun yet. The courthouse smelled like old paper and cold coffee. I'd been there before in my life, but never like this. Never with my back straight and my head high, knowing I wasn't walking in to beg or apologize or clean up somebody else's mess. I was there to tell the truth. Marissa sat beside me, hands folded tight in her lap. Lily wasn't there, thank God. Some things kids shouldn't have to see, even if they lived through worse at home. When they called my name, my legs felt heavy, but my spine felt strong. Funny how that works. I raised my hand, swore to tell the truth, and sat down. The prosecutor started gentle. Dates, numbers, accounts, text messages. Then came the threats. The judge leaned forward. The courtroom went quiet. I told them how Caleb called me at 2 a.m, voice sharp and desperate, demanding money, like I was an ATM that talked back. I told them about the pressure, the guilt, the way he used my daughter like a shield and my granddaughter like a leash. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't have to. Truth doesn't need makeup. Then his lawyer tried to rattle me. Asked why I didn't speak up sooner. Asked if I misunderstood. Asked if I was confused due to my age. That's when I looked him dead in the eye and smiled. Son, I said calmly, I raised a child, paid off a house, survived a bad marriage, and worked 40 years without missing a paycheck. I know exactly what manipulation looks like. Took me a while to name it, but I recognize it just fine. The judge shut him down fast. When it was over, I stepped outside into the sunlight and felt something crack open in my chest. Not pain, relief. Caleb didn't look at me when they let him out. That was fine. I didn't need his eyes on me anymore. I'd already taken back everything he tried to steal. Weeks passed. The house got quieter, calmer, safer. Marissa found a small apartment not far from me. Lily started smiling again. Real smiles, not the polite ones kids use to survive. And me? I started living. I joined a walking group at the park. Took a pottery class I'd been putting off for 20 years. I laughed more, slept better, ate what I wanted without someone telling me I was selfish for enjoying it. One afternoon, Marissa sat across from me at the same kitchen table where so much pain once lived. I didn't know how bad it was, she said softly. What I was doing to you. I know, I replied. She waited. I'm still sorry, she added. That one landed. I believe you, I said. And that's a start. We're not perfect. We probably never will be. But we're honest now. And that's worth more than pretending everything's fine. Sometimes Lily asks why people stay when they're being hurt. I tell her the truth. Because they forget they're allowed to leave. And every time I say it, I remind myself too. I won't pretend this was easy. Standing up cost me sleep, peace, relationships, comfort. But staying silent would have cost me myself. If you're watching this and something in my story feels familiar, that tight feeling in your chest, that voice telling you to just send the money, keep the peace, don't rock the boat, hear me clear as day. Peace that requires your silence isn't peace. Love that drains you dry isn't love. And family that treats you like a resource instead of a human being doesn't get unlimited access to your life. I waited too long to learn that. You don't have to. If you're young, learn early. If you're old like me, learn now. It is never too late to take your life back. And before I go, if this story spoke to you, if you've lived something like it, or if you're still finding the courage to stand up for yourself, subscribe. Not for me, for you. Because these stories, they're reminders that you're not crazy, you're not alone, and you're not weak for wanting respect. Sometimes all it takes is hearing one voice say, I survived this. And if my voice can be that for you, then every word was worth it. Take care of yourself. Stand your ground. And don't ever let anyone make you feel small again.